If Bungie ever runs out of ideas for exotics in the game, well, it needs to look no further than the community. As I began to dig into some of them and put some of them down on paper, as you're going to see some of these here, I realized that some of these ideas are actually really damn cool. So let's propose some ideas to Bungie and maybe one of these ends up getting made. You know the rules, and so do I. Hopefully I don't need to repeat them. If you find something that you particularly like, let me know in the comment section down below, as well as make sure that you are subscribed and leave a comment of your own. If you've got an exotic ideas, you might get yourself featured in one of these videos. We're gonna start ourselves off here with a bit of a spicy one. This is the idea of a liquid shot arrow crossbow by Azzy. This one did not have hardly anything for it at all. It had zero information on it, but the idea of shooting liquid bolts was just way too cool to pass up. So I got into some digging. This one was kind of, I guess, sort of my playground to just basically make whatever I want with it, right? So this is what I came up with. This is the first line. This is obviously an exotic crossbow with the exotic perk Cytokinesis. Shots can be held indefinitely, as a crossbow can, and explode when they are close to a target. So what this is going for is that this actually will lie in wait for targets to get too close to it. You would only be able to set up 3 of them at a given period of time before they start detonating on their own. With each of them dealing 50 damage in PvP, this means that if you are able to stack all of them in a single doorway and have a target be unfortunate enough to run into one of them, it'd be the same damage as if you were to hit one shot to the head, which I think is pretty fair, because you could follow up damage immediately to a body shot and be an instant kill. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. The exotic perk is called Nutrients. Kills drop a cell, which when picked up grant increased mobility, recovery, resilience, and draw speed. This is very similar to the Heart of the Pack buff on Bottom Tree Night Stalker, as well as that draw speed bonus being just kind of essentially a weird way of doing Rampage, or I guess this would be similar to Thorn, where you have to actually go over and pick it up. The idea here being that this is sort of a multi-purpose tool. It's meant to be a weapon that can both be defensive, as you're able to set these traps in different areas and wait for targets to come in. It can obviously be crowd control, as they do a bit of explosion damage, and it can be good for just general stay in the fight. I really want this idea to make it into the game. There are so many of these that I really want to make into the game. I think this one takes the cake for me. You guys have to let me know which one you prefer. That would, if you could pick one out of the 5 that we're gonna see here, which one you would like to see, but this one is really cool. But let's roll on to the next idea. Not to be outdone, again, a lot of these ideas were fantastic. We have from Apple 1765, the Jolder's Sacrifice. If you guys are familiar with Jolder, he was one of the not so fortunate Iron Lords that got picked up, quote unquote, picked up by SIVA when it all kind of went south. This is an exotic kinetic grenade launcher that plays on the idea of SIVA. I wasn't able to find a super good picture for this. This weapon that you're actually seeing here is a real weapon apparently used in Australia, but that's beside the point. The exotic perk is called the SIVA Replicator. Shots create a replicator that will continuously spawn seeking nanite swarms. Now, that has a lot to unpack in it, because obviously we don't have anything that really does that. So let me do my best to give you an analogy. Imagine if you could fire sort of similar to how like a glacier grenade would work, or the Salvation's Grip would work. When you fire these things out, it's the way I'm thinking that is it would actually spawn a sort of hive looking, not like hive as in the enemy, but a hive as in like a beehive sort of deal. It would spawn one of these little clumps of SIVA that you can actually stick to targets. And the idea that I have for this, I'm sure that the creator doesn't mind me being a little bit creative with this, is that if you were to actually stick this to a target, it would not kill the person that it's stuck to. It would deal damage to them, it'd let them know, but it would stick to them and it would continuously spawn these SIVA nanite swarms that seek out its nearby allies, that target's nearby allies, allowing you to essentially make an enemy into a sort of ally. The only way to get it off is to shoot it, kill it, which I think it would be nice if the PvE enemies actually treated this as a sort of like a guardian. They would actually shoot back at this thing, which could be good for causing distractions if you're in PvE, you know, getting a res up or something like that. Or maybe you could use it as a sort of like barrier if it was in a weird spot. You could kind of set this up sort of like a glacial wall would work, right? But anyway, I digress. The exotic perk, which is the big thing for this, is Possession. Nanites will explode if over 10 of them attach to a single target. Kills increase the health of all nearby replicators. So what you can do with this is you can set these up in an area. Let's say this is PvP. You can set a whole bunch of these up into an area if you've got the ammo for it. And then as soon as a target walks within line of sight of these things, the nanites will aggressively track towards them. Think sort of similar to how like a swarm grenade or maybe a skip grenade on Hunter would work. These things don't by themselves deal a whole lot of damage. We're thinking just like single digits worth of damage, maybe 1 or 2. do, but if a bunch of them get attached to a single target all at once, then a big amount of damage will explode out of that target and will harm nearby enemies as well. Obviously, this is sort of similar to the Wither Horde where, you know, it's just an AoE sort of thing, but the difference is that it can actually be destroyed, whereas Wither Horde obviously can't, but Wither Horde is a much smaller AoE that this actually deals damage in, whereas this would be a lot wider, but obviously it would actually take a little bit of setup in order to get this damage to happen. Really cool idea. I love seeing SIVA getting played with because SIVA's difficult to work with, because we don't have a whole lot of SIVA related weaponry or armor or perks or anything that really plays into it outside of the obvious stuff. This was a really great idea. This is probably the cleanest idea of SIVA I have seen. And if I could give an award for like most lore accurate representation in a weapon, I think this would do it. Really nice job. Next comes from a Patron user by the name of Lon. Now, Internet, I know that this is important to you and this is important to me because it helps put bread on the table. We are at 68 Patrons. You know what to do. This idea is the idea of the King's Guard. I did have to nerf this idea as it was a little bit strong. This is exotic warlock robes. And I want to say, if you want a better chance of making it into one of these videos, I look for armor. Armor is harder to make. So if you're trying to get into one of these videos in the comment section, try going for armor, because it's really easy to go too powerful or too weak with exotic armor, but I digress. This is exotic warlock armor called the King's Guard. The flavor text reads, "I will bring this fight to your doorstep." The exotic perk is called the Watcher. Kills matching your subclass element will spawn a matching elemental turret. This needs to, there needs to be some clarification for this, because obviously a single kill spawning a little turret is a little bit strong. I think that what this would require is a certain amount of kills before one of these randomly pops out. I'm thinking in PvP, if it guaranteed, similar to how the what's it called, Diamond Lance on the Titan, if you get 3 Guardian kills, then it will spawn one of these things, I think is very, very fair. These can have the exact same damage profile as like an Arc Soul, where it'll deal, let's say, 33 to maybe 55 damage for every burst that it fires. It fires bursts relatively quickly with a little bit of travel time and some tracking to make it more consistent. This could be a really fun idea, and I would love to see Warlocks play into this. In PvE, I'm thinking probably like 5, maybe even 10 kills would spawn one of these things, as this is a way to get some free damage out there without you needing to put yourself out there. PvE people, let me know if this sounds too strong. Would it be all right if a Warlock could wear an exotic armor piece that could spawn a Bleak Watcher? Because I know that's how this would be primarily used. Not so sure. Let me know in the comments. Let's roll forward to the next idea. Next up is ironically from another Patreon user, but he ended up getting picked up in the comment section because I see him around every now and then. His idea is another bow idea. This time this is a special ammo bow, so you know it's got to be good, called the Modulator. The exotic perk is called Cycle of Light. This weapon changes to match the element of the shield damage that you're targeting. Now, my big concern with this, and this is why I pulled back on this idea a little bit if you were to go back and forth between the two ideas, between what you see here and what you saw from the actual post itself. I pulled back on this idea because currently Arbalest is doing something very, very similar. And I think this came out actually before Arbalest got its big rework. So I think this needed to be pulled back a little bit just so it doesn't just blow Arbalest out of the water, which Arbalest is already blowing stuff out of the water, at least for this season. The main exotic perk is called Relentless Volley. Precision kills allow you to change to a volley of 6 tracking arrows whose damage matches the last shield broken. So if you are able to get a kill, and this can work in things in PvP. This will just match the element of whatever subclass that Guardian is using if you're using this in PvP. And you switch that over, it would then allow you to knock these 6 arrows. These 6 arrows do have a little bit of travel time. Think similarly to how I'm probably going to say probably something like Jotun. So it's pretty fast, but somewhat dodgeable, right? And if you were to fire this in an area and all 6 of them were to track that target in PvP, this would be a kill. And in PvE, this would be a huge amount of damage. And it is important that this is a special ammo bow, right? Because kill clip on a bow, which is sort of what this is insane as an idea, as that would just drive up the power frame of all other bows in the game to just never being able to compete with this thing. So special ammo bow, I think this works. I really like the idea of being able to switch over to these like tracking arrows, because we've got something similar to that with the Tiku's Divination. But let's roll on to the last idea of the week and the featured idea of the week. This idea again comes from another Patreon user by the name of N. When I first saw this idea, I was going to make fun of him for making Widowmaker's gun, and that was going to be the point. I was going to say, har, 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 Widowmaker from Overwatch, kind of similar idea, right? Nothing too crazy. But then he started talking more about the specifics of how this would actually work. And I went, hey, wait a minute. Hey, that's actually a good idea. That actually could work, and it could be kind of really fun. Damn. Okay, so Widowmaker's Gun it is. The exotic perk for this is called Widow's Kiss. Holding alternate fire switches this weapon to a sniper. By default is a pulse rifle, which consumes your ability's energy per shot. I had to think about this for a while, what this would actually do to your abilities. I'm thinking that it would take a total of 105% ability energy, meaning if you have just one ability charge and a little bit of energy on something else, that would work. So even if you have all 3 of your abilities charged, you're gonna need to wait just 10% for 10% of your overall abilities to come back, which is, I'd say, about 20 seconds or so before you can fire that 3rd shot. Yes, you can technically make this into an infinite ammo sniper rifle, but it's gonna take for freaking ever. And it does cost your ability, so it's not quite free, right? It does cost you something, which does have its trade-offs, right? The exotic perk that comes with this is called Targeted Vision. Sniper rifle kills reveal nearby enemies, and pulse rifle kills grant ability energy. This right here, I think, is the really, really cool part, because what this effectively means is that you can... There goes my freaking phone. What this effectively means is that you can exchange 105% of your ability energy and a kill to reveal nearby enemies, which I think is a really cool idea. I know Bungie's very cautious about allowing weapons to see targets through walls, but being that it costs something in order to do it, not just, killing a target, but actually costing your abilities, and the targets have to be nearby, similar to how if they were to get killed by, I don't know, like an explosion from Firefly or something. In PvE, this isn't very, very useful, but if you're able to get, let's say, both unstoppable and armor piercing, let's say, from like previous seasons or whatever it ends up coming for the next seasons, that could be very valuable to you. But like I said, if you do want to get your idea featured, let me know in the comment section down below and make sure that you're subscribed. Bless your faces. Deuces.